In an era when ancient wisdom was buried under years of ritualistic practices, when games became wars and wars were played like games, a young boy was found in deep meditation in a quaint village in South India known as Ravi Shankar. He would say, "I have family everywhere. People are waiting for me." He astonished his teachers by reciting the Bhagavad-gita at a tender age of 4. With his education in Vedic literature and physics and his deep and profound knowledge of the spiritual world, he became one of the most prominent sages of the modern world. All through his life, he has been reviving ancient knowledge and creating tools and techniques that have benefited millions across the globe in living a deeper and a more joyous life. In 1981, the art of living was established by Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. Nurtured by his care and contribution, the art of living has rapidly grown across 156 countries, reaching over 450 million people.
More people are searching harder for inner peace these days. Would you agree?
Correct.
One of Gurudev's most unique offerings to the world is the Sudarshan Kriya, a powerful breathing technique that facilitates physical, mental, emotional and social well-being. He has designed 57 exclusive courses that empower individuals and cater to the needs of a wide spectrum of institutions in the society. Back then, Gurudev started the Art of Living service projects by taking responsibility of reviving a sinking school which had no funds. Today, his intention has manifested in over 702 free schools, which provides education and food to more than 80,000 children in rural and tribal parts of India. From childhood, Gurudev had immense faith in the principle of non-violence. With escalating violence and conflict in the world, Gurudev has brought peace in situations where war seemed like the only solution. Thousands of militants and Naxalites laid down their weapons and chose meditation in the northeast and other parts of India. His efforts include bringing an end to a 52-year-old fierce conflict between the FARC and the Colombian government.
Ojalá podamos los colombianos abrazar pronto el principio gandiano de la no violencia. Coincidimos con el maestro Shankar.
Gurudev has visited Iraq several times and addressed peace conferences to bring respite to the nation and its citizens. He has hosted a series of trust-enhancing interventions in Jammu and Kashmir, providing all the stakeholders to voice their opinions in an effort to restore peace in the valley.
I was named Muhammad, but after becoming a militant, I was called Khalid. We had been taught to operate guns, arms and train other youths. But now, after doing the Art of Living course and meeting Sri Sri, we realized we had chosen the wrong path. We now want to spread love and non-violence in Kashmir.
Gurudev's programs have impacted people involved in armed conflicts across the world, making him a global ambassador of peace.
We gather today in this wonderful occasion of tolerance, blessed by our Master of Love.
Gurudev strongly believes that behind every culprit there is a victim crying for help. The Art of Living prison program is helping to rehabilitate the prisoners. It has reached out to over 800,000 prisoners globally and has brought immense transformation in their lives.
I used to actually look forward to fights. But now since doing this course, I'm a total different person. I can now walk away from a fight.
I don't think any human being is totally bad. If he's bad, it's only his understanding, his behavior, his actions. But there is a good side to him. I only see that.
The Art of Living's Welcome Home Troops project has transformed lives and brought veterans out of aggression and depression. 94% of these veterans who were suffering from the unseen wounds of war reported peace of mind and reduced stress and anxiety levels. The Art of Living has also been working towards the betterment of the environment. 40 plus rivers and thousands of water bodies in India have been revived. Conducted more than 100,000 cleanliness drives. Planted over 81 million trees in 36 countries. More than 2.2 million farmers have been trained to adopt natural farming till date. Gurudev found the Shri Shri Rural Development Program Trust to empower rural India. Volunteers have developed thousands of model villages across India, providing solar energy to over 90,000 individuals under Light a Home project. Gurudev's vast global network of volunteers is well known for mobilizing trauma and disaster relief for the affected populations around the world. In a world torn apart by religious, social, national and cultural divides, Gurudev's vision is to see the whole world as one family. Gurudev inspired Guinness World Record events like the World Culture Festival. The festival brought together over 3.75 million people from 155 countries with spectacular performances on a breathtaking 7-acre stage equivalent to 6 football fields by 36,602 dancers and musicians from around the globe, celebrating the diversity of all faiths and cultures. The Art of Living has hosted historic events leading to multiple Guinness World Records.
If you can have a mind of a scientist and a spiritual force of His Holiness Sri Sri Ravi Shankar ji gives, then we have a beautiful world and happy world and prosperous world.
And organizing a meeting no politician on earth could ever dream of.
The Art of Living Foundation. For 25 years it worked on programs promoting peace, combating violence and drug addiction, empowering our youth. It has an incredible following that cuts through all religions, cultures and backgrounds. A very, very difficult thing to do in today's world.
Gurudev has been conferred with numerous awards around the globe, including the highest civilian award of Colombia, Mongolia and Paraguay, the Padma Vibhushan, one of India's highest civilian award, and 21 honorary doctorates globally. His vision for the world is to see a smile on every face and create a stress-free and violence-free society.
The voice of peace, the voice of truth should be heard loud and clear.
In an era when ancient wisdom
To everyone, my name is Patty Montella, and it is my honor to welcome you to Bridging Spirituality with Action for Positive Change, a live interaction with global spiritual leader and humanitarian Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. Joining Sri Sri this evening is Iyanla Vanzant. Hello, Iyanla.
How are you?
Wonderful. So happy to be here with everyone. It promises to be a really power-packed evening. From welfare mother to New York Times best-selling author and Emmy Award winner, Iyanla is one of America's most influential spiritual life coaches. Her body of work spans over 3 decades and includes 15 published books translated into 23 languages. She is the host and executive producer of Iyanla Fix My Life, the #1 reality show on OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network, and the founder of Inner Visions Worldwide, which offers personal development courses for spiritual life coaches and ordained ministers. We're so happy you're here.
Thank you.
And Tina Lifford is here with us this evening. Tina has invested more than 40 years in learning how we can all be free of the past and future and reclaim our higher self. This past November, HarperCollins released Tina's book, The Little Book of Big Lies. Today, in her day job, Tina plays the beloved Aunt Vi on the critically acclaimed television show Queen Sugar, also on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and has played more than 100 characters in her successful acting career. She's also the founder and CEO of the Inner Fitness Project, a personal development network that teaches inner practices for greater resilience, power, and vision. Hi, Tina.
Hey. Mm-hmm.
And moderating our session this evening is my dear friend, Reverend Cynthia James. Cynthia is a transformational specialist, speaker, and coach. As an inspirational leader, she guides people to make changes at a deep level for lasting healing. She's also a singer and a multiple award-winning author of several books, including the #1 Amazon bestseller, I Choose Me. Her own life was transformed as she transcended a violent and abusive childhood. Through education and personal healing, she created the foundation for all her programs and has facilitated hundreds and hundreds of workshops, seminars, and keynotes worldwide. Hello, Cynthia. And greetings, Gurudev. I'm going to now hand it over in Cynthia's capable hands.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. I woke up so early this morning, excited to be with you all. I just wanted to say, Sri, I'm so grateful to be with you. I mean, I've been in your presence. I've meditated with you with thousands of people. I do Kriya every morning. And I'm so honored to have you be here with 2 people that I adore to have a conversation. And Iyanla, there's a special place in my bookcase for your books. You continue to inspire me and lift me up. And Tina, you have been my friend for over 30 years, and I treasure you in every aspect of our relationship. And it's been amazing to witness your evolution and your expansion to serve humanity. So I wanted to start this conversation today, and I really feel like it's going to be a conversation, but I wanted to open it. You know, we've got pandemic, we've got protests, you know, that are demanding change where racism is concerned. We've got calls for equality. And so I wanted to open up. It's like, there's a deeper meaning for what's going on here. And I wanted to get your perspective, each of you, about what does that mean for you? And Sri, I'd love to start with you. You know, what do you think is the deeper meaning of what's happening on the planet right this moment?
Yes, this pandemic has erased the boundaries. It has made us realize that how vulnerable the human race is. A virus which is less than 2 grams can put everybody in quarantine, put everyone in their homes, stop the entire economy of the whole world. Is really a matter of concern. I see this is nothing short of a world war, where you are fighting with an enemy which you don't even see, you don't even know. But in this crisis, there are some good things also has happened. Nature has started rejuvenating herself There has been dolphins in Mumbai shores, which was never there. Here in Bangalore, the weather has become so good. It was not this good last 50 years. We have gone back 50 years when we had pure air and pure weather. So apart from this, of course, there is a lot of hardship for daily wage workers, people who are earning, who are living hand to mouth. They are earning only on a daily basis. They don't have any savings. For such people, this has become a very big challenge. And on one hand, the fear about this pandemic still reels very high in minds of people. So even though we find a vaccine for this, but for the fear to subside, for the mental health to be better, it might take a couple of years, I guess, maybe a year or two. And on the racial front, it is so painful to see that so many hearts are wounded so severely. It is taking us back to 300-400 years back when there was no equality. That fear and anxiety coupled with the virus is really, really disturbing. On one hand, on the other hand, the enormous support of good people on the planet for this movement of standing together with humanity, that every life matters. We are all part of one family. This awareness has also been kindled. On one hand, it is painful. On the other hand, it has created tremendous awareness among young people not to toe those lines of people who discriminate, who go on the violent, mindset and do not care for human life.
Thank you. Iyanla.
Yes. I agree with everything. Not that I have to agree, but I can see everything that Gurudeva says. And I also think that the pandemic came to stop us in our tracks because we had become so busy and so disconnected and so blind and so separated and so against. And the virus is saying, wait a minute, stop, be still. And in that stillness, all of the things that we have ignored, all of the things that we swept under the carpet, all of the things that we've denied have been revealed. We don't need to live in a world where people are barely earning enough to live and eat, and we think that's okay. We don't need to live in a world where people are still discriminated against because of the color of their skin. We don't need to live in a world where our leaders are totally disconnected and dissociated from the people who trust them. So the virus stopped us in our tracks, pulled the rug up off the floor, and said, now look at this. Look at this. And the pain that we've seen revealed has always been here, but it was asymptomatic. We were spreading it around and didn't even know it. The discrimination, the anger, the fear was always here, but we were walking around asymptomatic, spreading it, putting it, in every country, every city, every place. And here in the United States, we've just engaged in such bad behavior. We just needed a spanking. And I think, Miss Corona just spanked us and said, stop it. Look at this, stop it. Look what you're doing to the children. Look what you're doing to each other. And we had to look. I want to speak just a moment about the fear, because I've been teaching about the fear that we keep blaming on the pandemic. And I want to offer and invite us to consider that the fear has always been here. The three basic fears: fear of nature, because we never know what nature's going to do. It could be a tornado, it could be a tsunami, it could be a rainstorm, a snowstorm, we don't know. And as human beings addicted to control, we want to control everything. We can't control nature, so many of us fear nature. Fear of the unknown. I can't speak for India, but in the United States, we're afraid of the unknown. If we can't control it, name it, see it, touch it, we're afraid of it. And the two big fears in the unknown is fear of death and fear of change. People don't even want to get divorced because they fear to change, okay? They don't want to move to another city because they fear to change. And then fear of death. We act like we're born to keep living. You start dying the day you were born. But no one teaches us about the beauty or the power or the meaning of death. So we fear death. And then finally, fear of each other. People are afraid of each other. Black people are afraid of white people. White people are afraid of brown people. Men are afraid of women. Women, because human beings are crazy. We are crazy. You know, you could just be walking down the street and you never know, somebody's just gonna take out something to hit you in your head. Human beings are crazy, okay? So we have a fear of each other. And now we gotta wear a mask. So not only am I scared of you, I can't identify you. These fears have always been here, and Miss Corona has said, deal with it. Now, how are you going to deal with this? Is there a kinder, gentler, more compassionate side of you that I can call forward? And instead of paying attention, now we're rushing to get out. So I think that this virus, this pandemic, is something that we call forward for our own healing and growth, to put an end to our bad behavior. And the young people are the ones who are going to lead the way.
Thank you so much, Tina.
Yeah, first I just want to say it is a pleasure to be on this platform in this conversation. I think that the fact that we all have lived our lives in such a way that we are prepared to be in this conversation in a way that adds value is just a gift. And so I thank each one of you for the work that you're doing, and I'm really happy to be here. So thank you. You know, I really spend a lot of time looking at self and figuring out, you know, who this human being is. And the incongruency between the self that walks and the one inside is a huge challenge and problem, because so many people are not aware of the incongruent nature that lives within us. And that incongruency expresses itself in a lot of ways. This pandemic, the racism, all of that is to some degree based upon the fact that human beings have been telling lies and being incongruent since the beginning of time. And in order for us to truly become a space through which the balance of life as it is, you know, I believe meant to be lived, which is we are an opening through which something greater can move through. And if we are meant to be an opening through which something greater can move through, then the most important thing for us to do is to develop the ability, the skill, and the mastery of getting out of our way. And this quarantine has really dropped people into a relationship with themselves. And some people are discovering that that relationship is a dysfunctional relationship. Others are discovering that that relationship is a relationship that needs tending to. Others are discovering for the first time they've stopped and become still enough to realize that there is something more than the busyness they have been identified with. And so, you know, one of the things that I take great solace in is knowing that I can't figure out the mind of God, but I trust it implicitly. And so I know, and I have seen in the workings of this body, that this body knows how to at least reach towards homeostasis. And as a reflection of the unseen, I believe that the planet knows how to reach for homeostasis, and that we are in some form of that reaching and the balancing that will go with us actually moving into a higher state. I will say that one of the most important things that I have learned for this human being is that is my pain, that has been unresolved, that is a hidden, secret, and recurring wound, absolutely must recur in order for me to bring more of myself to the experience, to the misconceived memory than I had available the last time it came around. So when it comes to the fact that we are revisiting ideas of war and the pain of war and the misconception of self that war of all kinds actually presents, it's an opportunity for us. And there are so many more aware, awake, and awakening people for us to come to this moment, to bring more of ourself, capital S, to these moments. Life is going to do what it does. Human evolution takes the time that it takes. But for us, we can each show up to these moments with a re-envisioned and more whole self. And in doing so, we will meet these moments in a way that absolutely allows more of God and life to move through us and change and transformation to take place.
Beautiful. Thank you. So I believe this pandemic is a portal of awakening. I believe that it has occurred on this planet at this time because humanity cannot continue to go down the rabbit hole that it has gone down, and there to be a shift. I also believe that we have been asleep on a certain level, and so we turned our backs for whatever reason, on racism, on sexism, and on the things that divide us. And as I was over the last couple of weeks, I've gotten a lot of phone calls from my Caucasian friends asking me, how do I feel? And starting to say, I don't know how to deal with this, and starting to deal with the fact that they have been oblivious to their privilege. And it caused me to go into a lot of different levels of feeling and expression within myself, looking at myself, because there was a time I grew up like 6 blocks from where George Floyd was murdered. And I knew what was going on in Minneapolis, but there was a thought in the back of my mind that said, if I can get educated, if I can become successful, if I can make enough money, I'm going to be able to move out of this paradigm, except I'm living in Malibu, I'm making money, and I still walk into Neiman Marcus and people are following me around. And it started me to say, I have got to wake up, and I loved what you just said, Tina. I have got to wake up to be a contributor to the healing. And so I think this portal that has opened has said, can you wake up? Can you stay awake? And all of these kids that are, because I think a lot of them are young, who are saying, we have to remember that we're connected. We have to remember that we're interconnected, and that if it's happening to one, it's happening to all. And if we didn't get that, the pandemic is showing us. I also believe that healing transforms at the spiritual level. And that's what I wanted to open up the conversation here about, is like, we can have a spiritual awakening, and we can meditate, and we can vision, and we can journal, and we can do all of the yoga and all of these other things. But without the action that goes with it, transformation doesn't happen. And so in the opening video of Sri Sri, I was, I knew a lot of stuff about you, but I just continued to be in awe of what you brought to the planet. So I want to talk about the middle ground. I want to talk about how you bridge between spirituality and activism to create change. And so can you start that conversation?
Yes, Reverend Cynthia, you have put it in the right perspective. What spirituality if it doesn't transform into action? Spirituality, if it doesn't propel you into action, is of no use. You go to a bank and get money, and if you don't have any intention to go and spend it in the market, why do you have to go to the bank? Why do you have to have a credit card if you want to buy nothing, if you don't want to spend anything? So, the spiritual energy is there, or is here for all of us to actively contribute to the society. What is it we can do in society? Let's see. What is the birthright of every human being? Every human being has the right to live in a society free from violence. Are we providing a society for our children which is free from violence? Or are there classroom violence even today? And especially in America, you see the gun culture has destroyed so many young minds, and it has killed so many young people. Not just killed few young children, but it has caused so much trauma in the minds of hundreds and thousands of young people. So we are entitled to a safe world, secure world, free from violence. Are we doing anything towards that? This is the first question we all have to ask ourselves. Second is disease-free body. Are we educating our population to eat well, to sleep well, and to have proper routine and care for a healthy body? Healthy body amounts to healthy mind. If you are sick physically, your thinking goes bizarre. You can't think properly, you can't think right. As Iyanla just mentioned, something wrong with us. We become so afraid of everything. We are afraid of other human beings. And then this fear is with us only. We are afraid to look at our own feelings. We are afraid to be authentic. So are we authentic in acknowledging our own feelings? This is something, or are we brushing them all under the carpet? This is a question we all have to ask ourselves. Here, spirituality helps us to be authentic. It brings clarity to mind, and it keeps our heart pure, and we become sincere in our action. If spirituality doesn't bring these three things, I would say you just forget about spirituality. No need of any spiritual thing. If it doesn't bring clarity of mind, purity of heart, and sincerity in action. And if we have these three things, anyone out there will recognize. You see, we convey more through our vibrations than through our words. A puppy in your home can show you how much the puppy loves you. It doesn't need a language. Just a glance from a child's eye, you can feel the warmth, the vibration. So we all have this beautiful vibration with us, but somewhere it is shrouded with stress and mistrust and fear. These three things have to be lifted. Fear of the other, a fear of the unknown, as you said, the fear. In fact, fear is just love standing upside down. When the love is invoked inside of you, you will see fear simply vanishes. And authenticity is something that we will have to cultivate in ourselves. That comes through education, through interaction, and through spiritual practices. So, in short, I would say a violence-free society, disease-free body, confusion-free mind, inhibition-free intellect. We have many different types of inhibition. North, south, east, west, black, brown, white. All these inhibitions are up there in the head. Inhibition about gender, we should do away with this, and spirituality will help you to see beyond this, beyond our inhibition. Inhibition-free intellect, trauma-free memory. If we are walking around with past traumas, we remain in a victim consciousness and do not acknowledge the goodness in the other person. Even though someone is coming to you with a good intention, your mind is clogged with trauma, so you will see them as enemy. This is a problem that we also have. Trauma-free memory, sorrow-free soul is the birthright of every single human being. And spirituality is that which can open your door towards all these virtues. Yeah, over to you, Cynthia.
Thank you. All right, Iyanla. Well, I know we have an international audience here, but I can only speak to my experience as a woman of color in the United States. One of the things that I recognize is we are so programmed and so conditioned to be everything but authentic. We are programmed and conditioned to meet the needs, judgments, and expectations of everyone else. So my spiritual purpose on the planet is to be a teacher. So one of the things that the pandemic did for me was inspired, invited, encouraged, demanded, required that I teach in a bigger way. You know, I have my own little circle and I have my school and everything. And, you know, my spirit was just blown up and say, go do this, because many of us have a deep, deep desire to do the things that Guru Dev was saying, but we don't know how. In America, the biggest enemy to spirituality is religion. It's religion and the confines. And you got to do it this way, and you have to do it that way. And so my activism as a spiritual teacher was to share with you the knowledge and information I have been given over the past 45, 50 years about how to stand as a spiritual warrior on the planet. Sorrow-free soul, authentic expression, non-violent approach, because so many people have no idea how to do that. So yes, if your spirituality isn't making your life and the life of the world better, one of the things that I learned very early in my spiritual walk was, this ain't for you. We don't need you walking on water and flapping your angel wings. We need you to be a demonstration to others of the presence of spirit. As Tina said, to allow that something greater to express through you. And then you become a conduit through which greater can express to other people. That's my purpose. So that's what the pandemic did for me. it awakened me to, I was staying safe. I was staying in the box, afraid of criticism, afraid of who was going to say what, because, you know, some of the spiritual truths are a little strange. Oh, it's a little strange to people. And we've been programmed in this law and order society, you know, punishment, guilt and shame and victimization and all the external stuff. So when you start to tell people things like, love them anyway, what you mean, love them anyway? Look what they did, and you know. So I'm grateful for Miss Corona.
Absolutely.
He kicked me out the box,
Yeah.
helped me bring my spiritual activism to the forefront and push my fear of criticism to the background. Because if I have something that the Creator has given me, it's not for me. It's for me to share in a greater way, to anchor the presence of the Creator.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. I again, I totally vibrate and feel everything that is being said and say yes. And I love Iyanla's deep bow. And I say to what you just said, deep bow, deep bow, deep bow. You know, spiritual, how do we take spirituality and bridge activism? And again, you know, the call is for us to not just understand the bigger picture and the idea of freedom and peace and oneness and family, but to activate that in our consciousness and our everyday experience. And so I think that one of the great ways that we become, to use Iyanla's term, spiritual warriors, is to step into that training ground within self right now. Like, what are you doing inside of yourself in your consciousness? And if in fact, you know, I mean, it's been said by spiritual teachers since the beginning of time, that starts with the question of who am I? And as we begin to value the self, you know, first discover that there is a self inside that is more than that image that we look at in the mirror. When we discover that there is a self, and that self has an innate agreement with the bigger energy of life, then we must show up honoring that self. And the best way, or the beginning of honoring that self, is to be curious about it, is to develop a relationship with that self. If you don't know what that means in this moment, then it means to begin to simply ask the question, you know, what is self? Who am I? If I'm more than that image in the mirror, then who am I? Because stepping into that kind of personal inquiry allows us to align with something that is greater than the machinations of our conditioned and fearful minds. So that's the starting point. And then a way in which, you know, you can actively see, because as you begin to discover self, there is a heightened and enhanced natural desire to love it, protect it, and allow it to grow so that it can fulfill its purpose. And so as we begin to love it and commit to being a space where it can have its full sway with us,
it begins to sort of dictate not just our behavior, but our environments. And loving self will make us warriors so that we can challenge the society that we're in, so that we can challenge the families and relationships that we're in, so that we can challenge our own inner behavior. And three things that I always encourage is look for the places inside of yourself where you are blaming, judging, attacking, and proving. If in fact you find yourself in that space, then that is the smallest, most unenlightened part of you trying to hold on to your idea of yourself. And so that part is protecting itself through blaming. It's protecting itself through judging. It's protecting itself through attacking. It's protecting itself through proving. And when you see yourself in those energetics, just stop and ask, and who am I? And the capital S self, what would the capital S self be doing if in fact I let go of this protection of my identity? Doing it at the personal level allows us to stand strong and be, I think about Martin Luther King and his, I have a dream speech, and the phrase, where he says that, I can see it. I may not join you there. I may not get to be there with you, but I can see it. When we are living our lives for that thing that is moving through us, then hanging on to this flesh is not the most important thing. Allowing this flesh and the consciousness that it houses to move through us is the most important thing. And when we begin to think like that, we begin to make new choices, and the activism starts inside of ourselves. And we say, we know what to say yes to, and then we know what to be accountable to, and then we know what to vision for.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, since quarantine started. And I'm very clear that we live in an infinite field of possibilities. In fact, I'm very clear that that energy is the essence of which I'm made. And if that is true, then I'm a co-creator with that energetic, and I get to create shift by shifting with me. So what I've been looking at is, how do I creatively regenerate myself and my speaker? And it's like, how do I regenerate so that I can step beyond my limited thinking? I love what Sri said about the traumatic memories, because that ran me for a really long time. How do I step beyond those to the places where I push the edge, where I step beyond those walls, where I step out and I dare to challenge any limited thinking within myself and stand for who I say I am and walk my talk? And I think that that's what's been happening in my circles. People are awakening and going, I've always said I'm not racist. I've always said I'm loving. I've always said I'm compassionate. And yet I will sit in a room and not stand for it. I will walk into a space and keep my mouth shut when I know that something's out of integrity. And so I feel like the activism it's like to be aware that you are one with that infinite presence, and you all also have an obligation, because you're on this planet, to take a stand for who you say you are, what you believe, and how you want to move on this planet. And so I guess I know we only have like an hour here with Sri, but I want to ask, what is the one thing you want people to catch so that they can walk away from this conversation and move into action in a powerful, dynamic, and mighty way. So how about I start with Iyanla and Tina, and we'll end with Sri Sri and give him the final word.
These three powerful women are coming with so many ideas, and I think people are going to catch all these ideas from these three powerful women in this conversation. So I'm more or less like a witness for what is unfolding. But one thing I would like to say here is, as Tina already mentioned, the first thing is to find out, who am I? Looking into the fact, what is this consciousness? Who are we? Who am I? That's a very, very important question. This question is the pinnacle of maturity of mind. If our intellect is mature, then this question must arise in us. Now, see, we have many identities. We take on an identity. I am a teacher or I am a student. Every teacher is a student too. If you are a teacher, you have got to be student, lifelong student. So you're student of your life. At the same time, you intentionally or unintentionally, you keep teaching others. In India, there is a proverb, I salute the bad guy first and then the good teacher. Because that bad guy is teaching you on his own cost. He is falling into the pit and telling you, hey, watch, here is a black hole, don't fall. I have fallen. So this proverb, it's an old proverb, it says, salute the bad guy first and then the good one, because the good one is showing you the way and moving, not at his or her cost. But the bad guy is showing something at his cost or her cost. So I would say, we need to inquire, who am I? This is the spiritual aspect. Find love inside. You are a fountain of love. Each individual have come to this planet as a fountain of joy and bubbling love. But we have forgotten. We have forgotten to smile. We have forgotten to be in that carefree atmosphere that we were brought into this planet. As Iyanla said, there is fear about everything. And to get out of the fear, we have to go within. When we go within, we see that innocent, pure corner of our heart is still alive. It's still kicking deep inside you. Recognize that spirit within us. We need to recognize that spirit within us, number one. Then, how do I do it? I have 100 things to do. So when so many things are in front of me, how can I do it? Even though you put so many aphorisms, you tell your mind so many times, this is what I want, still your emotions are not in your control. They just takes over. Then I would say attend to breath. Because directly we cannot control our mind, but we can do it through our breath. Every emotion has a specific rhythm in the breath. So if we attend to breath, you will see that you are out of all those negative cloud that is bothering you day in and night, though you didn't want them. Nobody wants all these negative feelings. But neither at home, nor in school, nor in any places of religious worship, they were teachers how to handle this stuff called mind. So our worst enemy is our own mind. So if we can master our mind through our own breath, because mind is not so tangible, but what is semi-tangible is our breath. Attending to the breath, we can create harmony within ourselves. When there is harmony in us, I tell you, it just spreads around us. It just resonates with people around us. And this is what I found. See, when I had this challenge in Colombia, I had to talk to these people, FARC guerrillas, 15 of their commandos. So when I went there first, they said, no, we are not interested. We believe in Marx's and Lenin's principle. We don't believe in anything spiritual. This is their first sentence. They were not ready even to talk to me. Also, I look little different coming from India, color-wise and otherwise, hair and everything. So, but then they agreed to, they came to check me out when I was giving a talk at the university. Then they came to talk to me. We had 3 days of conversation with them. And at the end of the third day, they came out and unilaterally declared ceasefire. A 52-year of bloody conflict came to an end. Neither the government nor the journalists were ready to believe what they said. They said, we are going to adopt the Gandhian principle of non-violence, and we are going to walk this path that you have asked us to do. I told them, look, what is that? You are fighting for social justice. I am all for social justice. But violence is not going to give you that. So let us work out. 52 years you have tried in the violent manner. 2 million people had lost their life. But why not we now try something different? They agreed, they asked forgiveness with the victims, and then the peace process began. Why I'm saying this is, inside every culprit, there is a victim crying for help. If we look at that victim, heal them, and only spirituality can do that. Meditation can do that. Breathing can help us to calm our mind and act from a serene space which we all carry within us.
Well, in a short amount of time that we have left, because I'm a kindergarten teacher, I want to make sure everybody got it. So breathe, people. Learn how to breathe and calm the mind down so that the mind will mature, so that you can master the mind. And when the mind calms down and when you're breathing, you've got to look for where you're blaming, where you're judging, where you are trying to prove, and where you declared yourself to be a victim. And that doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. So own your stuff. If it's in you, it is of you, it is from you, it is for you. The other thing I think is important is to really make that distinction between mind, and between self and self, so that you can step into who you are as a co-creator of your experiences. And I would sum that all up to say, think higher.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. That's it.
Yeah.
Big mind. That's what they are.
Yeah. And as we navigate our way to mastery of all of this, understand that it is a process. Stay in the process. Also, you don't have to know what to do. Just know that you want to do. And then know that the listening universe responds. So at any point, the starting place is literally, how can I move beyond my limitations? Just asking that question with
an open, thriving heart will allow the answers to mystically find their way into your life, into the body of your affairs, and into ultimately your consciousness. So just ask. If you don't know where to start, just ask. And you'll wind up on a platform like this, listening. Or you'll wind up in one of the Iyanla's classes, or you'll wind up at Sri Sri's world events. Just ask. Just want it. And be accountable to that wanting. Have the faith that that wanting will take you to the next step.
Can I just say one thing, because that is so important? I had this conversation with my 26-year-old grandson yesterday. He was upset about something, and I say, Olua, pray about it. Just pray about it. He said, I pray, and I don't hear nothing. I don't hear nothing. I said, Olua, I'm sharing with you what I sense and feel in my body. Yeah, but I pray and I don't get any answer. I said, Olua, what if this is the answer? Give up what you think the answer is supposed to look like. So when Tina says, ask, don't reject what shows up in the moment as a result of your asking, because you don't recognize what it is. That's a huge thing. I have so many people that signed up for my program who are trying to leave the program because they can't find this paper and they can't do that paper and they don't have it, and the click and the button and the link is. How you respond to the issue is the issue. That's the issue. Look at how you are reacting to a broken link in the website. That is a vast body of teaching and learning. So yeah, pray and ask, and then be willing to know that when the answer shows up, it probably will be the last thing you expected. I'm going to say that. I'm going to do a deep bow because I've got another call that I've got to take.
Very nice. Thank you.
Cynthia,
Thank you.
deep bow to everybody. Thank you.
I want to close out by telling you that you're a miraculous unfolding, that you're here by a divine appointment, and that your presence on this planet is essential, and what you do is beautiful. Thank you very much.